Kind of a magic moment, right? So this is a great opportunity for us to reflect on what is 40 years of family history, but also 40 years worth of business history, right? I mean, the world's changed a lot. Maybe let's go back in the time machine. Take me through how and why this started, and was there a galvanizing vision for Waddell Associates, or was it just, were you in survival mode? Like, why are we in this business?
It's 1983. Duke has risen to the highest level of corporate finance. One of the jobs as CFO of a New York Stock Exchange listed company that he had to perform was interviewing those who were going to invest the pension funds for thousands of people. And he told me that it really bothered him, that it was really a beauty contest. It was who had the most clever slides and the niftiest presentation. There was no real concern about the human beings whose futures were dependent on that income.
Right, the pensioners.
Yeah.
Right, it was really about the distributors.
Right. Yeah. And Duke had the opportunity to work with and see people who had a lot of money and who could go to U.S. Trust or Bessemer Trust, where they were individuals who someone was concerned about investing their money to make it possible for that person to achieve what they wanted. And for people like us, you had brokerage houses, and some of the brokers were good, but they couldn't make a dime unless they did a transaction, and they had BMW payments and private school tuition. So you couldn't ever be sure if that was really going to be good for you or if they were doing it so they could put it on the list of a commission. And Duke just felt like normal people deserve to have a level playing field and someone who was really interested in helping them achieve their own goals. It was
Right.
a mission for Dad to provide that kind of level to normal people.
So if I can summarize at least sort of the initial vision was give them a fair, safe place, give them access to services that the everyman investor didn't really have, that were brought to the table from Duke, who had had a big career in finance and understood both sides of Wall Street, brought a lot of intelligence to it. Yeah.
And we, of course, had no idea what a difference it was going to make. The reason I came into the company at all, of course, as you know, is he needed someone, and there was no one else around, and he couldn't pay him anything, and so by default, I became.
So we've had Waddell Associates as the brand for 40 years, right? Mm-hmm. Do you recall the moment, the naming of the firm? What was that conversation? Did he say, well, I've got to name it, my name? Was it a Charles Schwab inspiration? Why was it Waddell Associates?
When we picked up that piece of paper at Schwab in Palm Beach, and Duke figured out with a limited power of attorney, he could move his mother's small amount of money from the brokerage firm where the cute young man Duke thought was slowly putting it in his pocket, and we could put her money in Schwab, and he could run it for her. So he talked to Harriet, and she said, thanks, Duke, I'd much rather play bridge. Once he had done that for a while, he went to the Boynton Beach Library with the yellow hat, and he wrote up this business because it would make it possible for him to pursue the mission he had in his mind, which was to give people like us a fair deal. He had registered as Alfred M. Waddell and Company, and he said, Clara, we're going to build this. If we can help Larry and Jack, we can help other people. So we re-registered as Waddell and Associates because his feeling at the time, I wanted to name it something wonderful like Still Pond, which was a place we loved to anchor on the Chesapeake, which was very safe. Clara, I want my name on the door so that if anything happens, they know who's responsible.
Whose throat to cut.
And,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
he said, we're going to put associates because hopefully one of these days it's going to be more than you and me. Duke decided that he ought to spread the risk. Instead of giving it to individual companies, find managers in areas he wanted to invest in who were investing in what they perceived were the best companies. So it changed. And then we had the opportunity, 10 years down the road, people started circling. They were offering Duke the opportunity to merge or to be bought. And you had graduated from college, gone to work for Schwab, headed off to Phoenix. You were discovered you were going to have a meteoric rise in that company. And Duke thought, I got to talk to Dave, because if he wants this business, the time is now. And if he
And this was
doesn't,
97? When was this?
I bet it was 96.
Yeah.
If he wants it, we're going to have to know that. Otherwise, I'm going to have to seriously consider these other options because I don't want to work forever. So we came to California to a Schwab advisor conference. And Duke showed David the books and told him if he was interested in...
By the way, I'd never seen the books before.
I know.
Yeah, I was like, well, that seems like a lot of money.
And he said, Dave, you got to think about it because you're going to have to go back and get your master's, and then you're going to have to come to Memphis and work with me long enough so that I can train you to do this. And David said, I'll think about it.
Because you guys came and bribed me to come home to Memphis,
Right.
Tennessee to be part of this business. That was incredibly useful as a period because that was such a rapid growth phase at Charles Schwab at Babson for graduate school, right? Like I was useful in the horseshoe pit with the other MBA students because that was such a radical time within the business. And really, you know, that's been the most important thing that's happened probably. Now, Chuck still believes that, you know, people with the right amount of information, you know, could make their own investment decisions. But the reality is the largest profit-making business within that franchise is the business that you all basically started, which is kind of phenomenal.
And a little while later, you called and you said, Dad, I'm coming. I'm going to Babson and I'll be there. And so Duke started telling the people who were circling us, thank you, but no thank you. I'm sticking with this business.
So you are the matriarch of this business. Here we stand today. It's 40 years. We care for 1,100 families, $3 billion, 48 states, I think.
Incredible.
When you reflect upon the work that we've done, not necessarily the scale. I mean, the scale is impressive, I think. I'd like it to be
yes.
larger, and I will make sure that happens. But if you think about just in reflection, if we turned it off today, we just shut the whole business down today, the run ends. In reflection, what are you most proud of?
The number of people we've been able to help achieve what they wanted to do, whether it was send their kid to a good college or endow a scholarship at their own school. It's taking care of people doing what they want to do with their money and being sure they've got something to do it with.
You're 100% right. So let me ask you this. Two sides of this. One, sort of the family side, the other, the business side. I had a conversation, fortunate enough to have a conversation with Fred Smith one time. And we were talking about brands and where did Federal Express come from, et cetera. He said, I needed something that sounded big and important, right? And so that's where that came from. I don't know if you ever talked to him about that, but anyway, it was a great thing. And so we talked about Waddell and Associates, and he said, well, Smith Package Delivery, that probably wasn't going to work. And I thought a lot about that over the years, And so now at this point, thinking into the next 40 years, it's so much bigger than Waddell.
Yeah.
Right? So I look at the brand now and I'm like,
Yeah.
it sort of underappreciates the associates.
Yeah.
Because there's so many more associates than
Yes.
Waddell's,
Yes.
So I think a lot about the brand. So if I choose to retire the brand, are you going to be mad at me?
No, I think the time has come. Your father was an investment advisor. He gave a lot of free advice on buying companies, selling companies, setting up trusts. He knew an awful lot of stuff, and he was willing to share it. And as time went on, he knew the players in Memphis who he could say, Dave, you need to go over there and talk to him about buying that farm. He knew the people who were at the top of their game in all of these games. And then you appear on the scene. You've got a hell of a lot of energy. You are into it. You're looking hard at what we can do to take care of the clients even better. So where Duke just wanted to do their money and send them off to these other people, your vision was we can hire the people in our family to take care of these families. And that's when I saw you and Dad butt heads. You had a much more expansive vision for the business than he was willing to even consider.
But obviously the business took off from there. It was very successful, and the family needed that because we needed to eat. Right?
Indeed.
Yeah. But the business has meant a lot more in the last 40 years for the family than just putting food on the table, right? Do you have a sense of, if this hadn't happened, if it wasn't Waddell and Associates, right? Like, what do you think the firm has meant to the family? What has it enabled us to do? How has it defined our identity? Like, it's such an integral part of who we are, right? Do you have a sense of what would it have been if we didn't do this? And therefore, what was the value of doing this?
Really, we've done well by doing good. And that's the most important part of it. We invest our money the same way
Still
the
happens
company
today.
invests its
Perry
money.
Green is my financial advisor. I will go to Perry and I'll say, how big a boat can I have, Perry?
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, it's been a fabulous conversation. Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to carry the brand for the last 25 years.
Well, God bless. And I think as we started to talk about, Waddell and Associates has become bigger than Waddell. Daddy needed it at the time because of the situation with not being able to trust and stuff. Now it could be more still pond.
Still pond it is. Thanks, Mike.